iPhone emulation has been mostly a no-go for me. It has historically been a bit of a convoluted mess. It used to require jailbreaking. I haven't jailbroken my phone since the iPhone 3G, and it made my phone run like garbage, and a bunch of Apple employees that I knew made fun of me in an Applebee's once, and I never wanted to do it again. But there have been a lot of advancements in iPhone emulation very rapidly over the past year or so. First, there were web apps like Afterplay that allow you to circumvent the App Store by just running your games in your browser cache. Then, thanks to the ongoing Epic Games lawsuit, thank you Tim Sweeney, who liked my brother's tweet one time, emulation apps made it onto the App Store legitimately, the most popular one being Delta. It can emulate everything up to DS, and it does a phenomenal job. They even recently added multiplayer support for DS emulation. But emulation on iOS stops right there. As powerful as iPhones have gotten recently, they haven't been able to emulate much more than DS games. In my previous video on the topic, we used the AltStore without jailbreak to get Dolphin for GameCube emulation and Folium for 3DS emulation. But unfortunately, neither ran all that great. It's a shame because there's a lot of power in this iPhone that just isn't being properly utilized. And it's entirely Apple's fault. They lock certain tools away from developers for some reason. You might have heard of JIT, which stands for just in time. This is a compilation technique that allows certain games to run very fast. It allows games to run just in time. JIT, just in time. Like and subscribe. Subscribe. Thank you. The hardware in these devices has gotten so good that developers have sort of just been able to brute force their way through the software restrictions that Apple sets. But unfortunately, that's not going to really help us when we get above DS emulation. It's not really going to help us for GameCube and above. We need something more than that. You can enable JIT. You just usually have to jailbreak your phone for that. Just this past week, a tool to enable JIT just snuck its way onto the App Store. StikDebug. Stop everything that you're doing right now, close this video, and download that app now before it gets taken off of the App Store, because it's entirely possible that Apple does remove it. Having StikDebug on the App Store basically unlocks the full emulation potential of your iPhone without jailbreaking. Now, you can run GameCube much better. There's even a way to do Nintendo Switch emulation fairly easily and with some pretty impressive results. It's not perfect. It's still not as smooth as some powerful Android devices. It also isn't exactly easy. It is kind of easy once you have it all figured out, but troubleshooting is the problem, and that's probably gonna make you want to tear your hair out. Since my previous video, I have the AltStore set up already, and that's most of the problem. Enabling JIT is actually super easy. It's pretty much a two-step process from there. But I will say, the troubleshooting, again, is where you might tear your hair out. There are some pretty simple tutorials that you can follow that will get you most of the way there, but if something does go wrong, and it most likely will, you kind of need to know how to troubleshoot it. And it shouldn't be that difficult, but you kind of need to know a little bit. Whatever the case, this is still way easier than going through the whole jailbreak process. And it's still undeniably cool to have all these types of games running on your phone. And your friends don't even have to see green text bubbles.
Huh? Oh. You froze it. Now you froze it.
One of the biggest hurdles with super powerful games like this is going to be storage space on your iPhone. Some of these games require a lot of storage space on your phone. Maybe you don't want to leave them on your phone. Save that storage for those little videos that your iPhone makes you. You know those little videos that your iPhone makes you?
It's a shame we had to put them down.
Anyway, check out this video's sponsor, Charge, and their Disk Plus. It's a super thin and compact USB-C M.2 NVMe SSD enclosure. It's a tiny drive. It's so compact, the USB-C cable is integrated into the design. You ever accidentally swallow your SSD? Well, now you can. Try doing that with a normal size drive.
No, please.
You can put up to a 4 terabyte SSD in there. The whole enclosure supports read and write speeds of up to 10 gigabits per second. It's fast enough to record log footage straight to the drive. Zim, get up there. Whoa. Oh, you're amazing. Oh, everyone loves you. Yeah, it's called the Sarge, Zim. It's called the Sarge. It's got 1 terabyte in it right now, but it can do up to 4 terabytes, Zim. Zim, where are you going? It even has a pass-through USB-C port for charging up to 100-watt power delivery, so no dongles needed.
It looks good. Why is that a surprise to you?
Like hold like that. It comes with a little sticker. You can stick it to the back of the...
Upgrade to get the magnetic module, so it'll MagSafe snap to whatever device you want.
If you don't feel like carrying it in your mouth all day, at less than 1/4 of an inch thick, it can slide right into your pocket. All right, we got it. Next shot. Move on. Get your Charge Disc Plus at the link in the description below.
And use code WULFF10 to get 10% off.
I think you have something behind your ear right there.
I saw it in your hand the first time.
At least pretend that you don't. I would highly recommend watching my previous video on this that goes into a lot more detail on the AltStore. If you're new to iPhone emulation, that's something you're gonna need to set up, so you're gonna wanna know more about that. The only thing that needs to be added to that video is that you can now install the AltStore using a PC. You don't need a Mac computer anymore, so that's cool. Getting AltStore is what's going to enable you to get Dolphin. You can even sideload apps with an IPA file from AltStore, like Folium, the 3DS emulator. These two emulators will work without JIT enabled. The performance is just worse. You will also use AltStore to sideload MelonNX, which is the Nintendo Switch emulator. Just a fair warning, in order to install the AltStore at all, you're gonna need an Apple developer account. It is free and pretty easy to set up, but you will have to renew all of your sideloaded apps every 7 days or so, and you're only limited to 3 sideloaded apps at a time. And that includes the AltStore. So that means only 2 emulators. And that fucking sucks when you're trying to make a whole video about iPhone emulation. So I paid for a developer account, which is $90 a year. This makes it so that you only have to renew each app every 365 days. And you can sideload as many apps as you want. If you do decide to change your account to a paid developer account, you will probably need to reinstall all of your sideloaded apps. Just a fair warning. I obviously don't recommend that unless you're like a super duper power user or you're a developer yourself, because that is a lot of money to be paying Apple for a feature that should probably be there already. Otherwise, just get the free account and just delete emulators that you aren't using. You just know that you're limited to 2. Okay, now that all that's out of the way, assuming that you have AltStore already, I'm going to provide you 2 resources that should help you getting JIT enabled. There is this Reddit comment that lays things out pretty easily. I will just pause the screen to read that. There's also 2 videos from this beanie guy over here, Retro Spirit. It's recommended to at least follow along one of these resources. I kind of just sent it. I downloaded the StikDebug app from the App Store, which hopefully is still available by the time you watch this video. Then I had to generate a pairing file on my computer, as per the instructions, move that file over to my iPhone, open StikDebug. When prompted to, select the pairing file you just made, and that should realistically be all that you need to do. If you've already sideloaded a bunch of apps that you'd like to use JIT with now, I would recommend deleting those apps and re-downloading them at this time. Now that you have all of that other stuff figured out, it might make your life a lot easier going forward. From now on, you will open your emulation apps through StikDebug. Think of it like a launcher. StikDebug will allow the app to run with JIT enabled. Each of these apps have a JIT option that should unlock itself once you load it through StikDebug. It seems as though only the Dolphin public beta has this JIT option. So make sure that's the version of Dolphin you're using. And with all that done, GameCube emulation is significantly improved. It went from an unstable mess to a very stable 60 frames per second. It's not the smoothest GameCube emulation I've seen, but it's an iPhone and it's more than playable. Rogue Squadron 2 is not an easy game to emulate. It goes from completely unplayable to somewhat playable on here. Believe it or not, this is impressive gameplay.
Oh, I changed the view. Oh, that's good. That's bad. Just don't turn and don't fire, and it'll run perfectly. Exactly.
Folium, the 3DS emulator, also has a JIT option, but unfortunately, the difference isn't exactly night and day here. But it does help a little bit. For example, I wasn't able to get Sonic Generations to open past the title screen at all without JIT. Now, it at least plays. It does stutter, and it does crash. So it's still not stable, but you can at least see that there's somewhat of an improvement. Kirby Planet Robobot, unfortunately, still doesn't seem to play very well.
Can't, doesn't seem to get past this spot.
New Super Mario Bros. 2 also doesn't seem to get past, into a game at all.
And that's about all we'll get.
The last time I played Pokemon Sun, it struggled in this area.
And here it's like a little jittery, but it seems to have been improved. I'm starting to think that JIT on Folium is just like a small improvement and it doesn't really like have anything crazy, any crazy performance increases or anything. Is there just a black bottom screen in this game? I'm forgetting now. It comes up when you hit the menu. So, I mean, that's totally fine. I could save and everything. Oop, we're good. I think this game works now. Yeah. Honestly, I was hoping for a little bit more of an improvement with 3DS emulation. But that is more than made up for with Switch emulation on the iPhone. This is by far the most impressive part. You set it up just like you would any other Switch emulator by installing your prod and title keys and your firmware file to start. Then load your legitimate Nintendo Switch ROMs. Not all of them show up in MelonNX for some reason. Some of them I have to load individually each time. A game like Sonic Mania, for example, will just work fantastic. Not a single stutter whatsoever. This really isn't all that surprising. It probably doesn't even really need JIT, to be honest. Super Mario Odyssey is one that I try on every device. I just tried it on the Retroid Pocket Classic, and I couldn't even load into the game. On the iPhone, with JIT enabled, it stutters at first, but it's pretty impressive to even get it to play at all. It does smooth out eventually, but I think you can probably expect occasional stutters throughout your gameplay. It also did crash on me after the frog jumping bit. I did get past it eventually. It's gonna take a little bit more development before things like this run flawlessly on iOS. But remember, it didn't run at all a week ago. I would recommend turning this setting on, shader cache. It should help smooth out at least a little bit of the performance. I'd also recommend sticking to smaller games like Sonic Mania, Ollie Ollie World, Tetris Effect, games like that. Although Tetris Effect might crash a little bit. It's a surprisingly power-intensive game.
Okay, maybe not Tetris Effect.
Pair this setup with like a MIG Switch dumper, and this is a pretty sick way to get more playtime out of your physical Switch games. Hell, you can just straight up dump a game from your iPhone, or you can play it from the cartridge on your iPhone. That's kind of sick.
I suspect that load times might be a little longer from the MIG switch just because you're going through USB-C. Otherwise, seems to be going just fine.
I spoke too soon, it crashed.
Oopsies.
I wanted to address a couple more of the downsides that I've been experiencing here. Besides the obvious performance issues with 3DS and Switch emulation, there's a lot of moving parts here that could all just kind of cave in on themselves. For example, my AltStore just stopped opening, and that caused a couple of my apps to also stop opening. So I had to reinstall that, which is a little bit of a process. Some emulation apps might force you to reinstall them every once in a while, and that will wipe everything. All of my ROMs were saved within those apps, which you should probably not save them within the apps in case you need to reinstall them. But your save files are there, and those will also get wiped. This is, of course, on top of the fact that not every game even works. Some of them work great. They work without a problem. Some of them don't even load at all. Again, this is only for like GameCube and above. GameCube, Switch emulation, 3DS emulation. Those games are hit or miss, and I don't have the time or the patience to go through every single game and tell you which ones work and which ones don't. And there's also PS2 emulation. That sounds really cool. I haven't tried that myself yet. I'm at the end of making this video, but Retro Spirit did, and he tried a bunch of games, so go check that out. This is still very obviously not the most ideal way to play these games, but it is a neat little party trick. It's kind of cool to be able to pull out your phone and show all your friends that you got Mario Odyssey running on it.
A Switch isn't always going to be with you, but a phone probably is. I can see myself busting this thing out for some Ollie Ollie World or something. That's a game that I probably wouldn't play if I were at home with my Switch. This gives me an opportunity to play my games library when I otherwise wouldn't. I otherwise would probably be just brain rotting on Twitter. And I'd be more than happy to do anything else than that. All of these apps have on-screen controls. They're like decent, but obviously that's not the most ideal way to play these games. Throughout this video, you've probably seen me use this controller. This is the 8BitDo Lite. I've talked about it a bunch of times. I don't think they make this version anymore, but I like this one because it replaces the thumbsticks with D-pads, which makes it super flat and portable. So it's like the perfect companion for iPhone emulation. But you can just use any X input controller. X input is just recognized by iOS way easier than other controller languages. You could also just connect two Joy-Con. iOS recognizes dual Joy-Con as one controller now, which is pretty sweet. Go ahead and print yourself a Joy-Con grip for your iPhone. I'll leave that file linked below. JIT on the iPhone has the potential to unlock a whole lot of crazy stuff. It's been around for a bit, but now it's on the App Store. It's been mainstreamed. Hopefully, the interest will increase and there'll be a lot more development strives that have been made. It'll take a little bit. It's only been mainstream for like a week. There is potential for Apple to shut this down still. There wouldn't really be a legitimate reason for them to do that. They're really strict with the way that developers use JIT, and they're already really strict with the apps that they even allow on the App Store in the first place. So easing up on the JIT restrictions wouldn't really be such a bad thing. I personally don't think that this was an oversight on Apple's part. I think they just sort of eased up their restrictions a little bit. It wasn't until last year that they changed their guidelines completely to specifically allow emulators and emulation apps on the App Store. So I don't think allowing StikDebug to exist is an oversight at all. I think they're just cool with it now, which is huge. Let's not give Apple too much credit, though, for changing their ways. A lot of the methods we use to do this stuff wouldn't be possible without the years-long Epic Games lawsuit that's been going on. Epic has been suing Apple in multiple countries over unfair App Store practices, and it is because of this lawsuit that Apple is forced to allow sideloading of apps. In the EU, it's way easier to sideload apps. Here in the States, we still have to do some AltStore, alt-server tomfoolery. But at least things are starting to move a little bit. More recently, these lawsuits have eased up the restrictions on in-app storefronts on App Store apps. App. So now you can more easily buy things within an app without it costing you more money. I know people don't like to hear the words in-app purchases, but think about something like Twitch. You know how a Twitch subscription is $3 more on iOS? Well, hopefully, once Twitch's developers wake up from their coma, they can more easily circumvent that restriction.
This app sucks. What happened?
Wolf? Thank you for using a tier 1 sub to Wulff Boss.
This app sucks.
I'll also add that Fortnite is the reason that you expect crossplay to just be there on every multi-platform multiplayer game these days. Back when Fortnite launched on the Switch, it launched with crossplay, but that crossplay wasn't available. I dropped my expensive phone. Crossplay wasn't available on PlayStation, and they specifically called out PlayStation for not allowing that crossplay. And that embarrassed PlayStation and forced them to change and then allow crossplay. And now, since then, everyone just expects crossplay to be a thing. And it was PlayStation that was holding out that whole time. And yes, I still have a grudge. I don't even like Fortnite, but I'm just at least trying to acknowledge what Epic Games has done for the games industry and now the app industry. I think we're only able to have these great strides in emulation without jailbreaking because of these lawsuits. And of course, the developers who work on this stuff. Of course, we can't forget them. And I know what you've been thinking, but Fortnite's the reason all these live service games are so popular, and I hate live service games. Tell every mom on the planet to stop buying so many V-Bucks. I don't know what to tell you. Pick your battles. So what do you guys think about iPhone emulation now, these days? Has it gotten a lot better? Does this entice you a little more? Do you now finally want to install AltStore? Did you do it last time I made a video on it? And now you're happy to try some more Dolphin and some MelonNX? Leave it in the comments below, add me on Twitter, any and all this other social media garbage. I hope you subscribed before when I told you to. If my videos just show up on your homepage and that's how you find me, you better hit that motherfucking subscribe button. A lot of you didn't see last week's video because you didn't subscribe. And YouTube punished you for it. And me. As you're watching this, I'm at PAX East. I'm doing a signing on Saturday at 4 o'clock at the Screenwave booth. So come say hello to me. Hey, share this video with a friend who's got an iPhone. Maybe you don't, but they do. Thank you very much. Have yourself a great week.
A great time.